With new Brix release, variables are more important than ever. Unfortunately, a lot of you are using them wrong or misunderstanding the concept. So in this video, we're going to take a look at what they are, how to use them, and advanced uses. And we're going to get to all that right after this. Stop building boring sites. BrixFX Library gives you over 600 ready-to-use animations and effects for Brix Builder, scroll animations, hover effects, and much more, all while being super lightweight. Want a bit more high-end? BFX Pro Toolkit gives you 82 top-tier effects like cinematic backgrounds, animated text, mouse interactions, and much more. With both tools, you just add a class to an element and you're done. No CSS or JavaScript knowledge needed. Your site goes from flat to incredible in seconds. BrixFX, go make something that moves. All right, sorry about the commercials, but I gotta make money and that's my product. So, let's get right into it, all right? First up, what is variables? All right, variables are really easy to explain. And before I even go to the little slides, I'm going to give you the 10-second breakdown. All right, our client has a primary color. It's their main color, okay? And it's red, because let's say it's Safeway is our client and red is their color. And I'm going to make a header and I'm going to use the company's main color as the font color, and in your head, you just pictured a big old header in red because red was the variable. Well, actually, red was the value. The variable would have been company's main color. Let's take a look at it now. So, what are CSS variables? That's exactly what they are. They are nothing but a value tied to something. So, let's look at why we use them. You know, the problem is, let's say we had put the color red throughout the entire site, blah, 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 like 47 different places. Safeway gives us a call and says, hey, guess what? We're changing to blue. Oh, crap. Now you're not going to sleep tonight because you got to go change all those little colors, all right? So instead of that, what we do is we say, okay, let's give it a brand color. And there's the value of the brand color, and we can use that anywhere. We can say, okay, this is a background color for a button. This is a heading color. You getting the idea here? So here's more of an example of how you can use it. You can tint them using RGBA and different things that you can do. But the point is, it's a value that you can use anywhere and change later on. Now, it doesn't just have to be a color. It can be spacing, it can be typography. How big are your fonts? You know, you could kind of do it with anything. You do it with radius. Now, you could do it with shadow. Because of the way that Brix implements shadows, that's a little bit of a funny one. And, you know, you still see it in all the frameworks. They include the utility classes, which you should never use. But regardless, there they are. Now, grid 3, that could be really helpful. You don't want to type out FR. So I'll give you an example of all of this, and let's get to it. Okay, so we have a simple, ugly example page that I've been using to showcase BrixFX, but the point is I wanted to show you how variables work, all right? So let's open up our styles palette here. And you can see that I've got a couple of colors in here. The colors, the new color system, those are all variables, nothing but variables. And by the way, you don't even have to have them in there. You can put them in here. If I wanted to have an uncategorized one, I could make up a new one. I could call it, I don't know, my color, horrible name. Let's give it a value of red. We'll go ahead and save that. And now watch. If I come in here, and I say, oh, this thing here, well, that's a var dash my color. Okay, it goes red. Whoop-dee, right? So, but it kind of shows you. Now, when you're putting in these variables, when you're trying to use a variable, you don't have to do the var thing. I could have just gone my C and there's my color. And, you know, Brix is smart that way. So that's the basic usage of them. Now, that's not a great usage, is it? It's you know, you would have had your colors already figured out. So let's use something that's actually a little bit more usable. We'll go ahead and delete this my color. Okay, now you see I have one here called radius, and I'm going to set that as 1M. And Actually, I tell you what, let's go 1.5M and we will save that. Now, the reason I did this is because I want all the radiuses on my site to be the same. So now if I want to come in here and you see if I come here to my border and I go to my border values, see I got 1M. Well, what if I did another card? You know, this happens all the time, and if I wasn't being careful and using classes and, you know, the way I should, but still, even in a class, you should be using these. But let's say I forgot what it was and I put in 2M. Well, now we have things that just don't match, right? This is why variables are needed. So instead, what I can do is I can say radius on all of these. Then I can come here and see they're still not matching because this one here doesn't have radius. And I do radius, and all of a sudden, all my radiuses are going to be the same everywhere on the site. I don't even have to think about, you know, what the radius should be. Now, honestly, on most sites, you only use 2, maybe 3 radiuses. You know, most frameworks are going to give you 20 of them, but you don't need them, all right? So now we understand the basics of using variables. I want to show you something, you know, so that you understand really the hierarchy of variables, because this can kind of screw you up. Now let's go in and let's create a new variable. We'll create a variable for a font size, okay? And let's call it, I don't know, header dash medium. Okay, and for this, we're going to say, oh, I don't know, it's 2rem. So we'll go ahead and save that. And we'll save this, and we'll come in here. And now for this font size, let's go ahead and give it what we just created, that header dash medium, okay? And yeah, these look a little funny, but I really want to show you what's going on here. So here we're going to do header dot medium 2. And I tell you what, let's just up that size a little bit because, you know, 2 is a little small. And this is kind of the point. You know, you can actually go in later on and say, oh, yeah, no, that's not really right, is it? I want that to be, say, 4rem. Okay, and we'll save that. And now we can see they're 4rem. Okay, that's great. And the reason that they're 4M is because this variable is available to us throughout the site. It's a global variable, all right? It's global. It's throughout the site everywhere. And, you know, you just have to put it in and you get that value. But watch this. I'm going to go to the block, okay? The element above it. It's called the parent element. And on this block here, I'm going to come here and I'm going to start a new CSS, and in it, I'm going to redeclare that header dash medium, and I'm going to say that, and you notice right away it goes small, I'm going to say, you know what, you're 2rem, and all of a sudden, what's going on? They're both using the thing. That's the great thing about variables is that you can locally scope them. See, inside this block here, it's scoped as 2rem. Inside this block, it's scoped as 4rem. So if I change this one to 4, look at that, they're the same. If I make it 14, you get the idea here. You're able to override what the variable is without changing what the variable name is. And as you can guess, that can get really, really bloody powerful. Now, what if you want to use the variable, but you just want to tweak it a little? You can do that also. Okay, so all you have to do, let's get rid of this. So they're both just using the raw variable, and let's go in here and we see that this is a var of header medium, which we know is 4rem, right? Well, what if we want to make this one a little bigger? You know, we don't want to locally scope it because honestly, we're just using this header medium throughout the entire site. And for whatever reason, we want this one to be a little bigger. That's fine. You can use variables inside of calculation. So all we're going to do is we're going to go calc. We put the variable in this case, var header medium, and we're going to times that by, I don't know, let's say 2. And now it's really, really big because it's 8 rem. Makes sense? You had 4 rem, you times it by 2, 8 rem. It's not rocket science, Billy. So that's the thing. You got to realize that these variables are just a way of repeating a common value. That's all they are. And there's nothing special. The syntax might be a little difficult, but honestly, there's a little thing called ChatGPT. And if you know to say, hey, I have this variable of this and I want to do that, it's going to help you with the code. All right. So that's one way to use a variable inside of a variable. And there's lots of ways to do it. You can use it via a calc, which is here, a calculation. You can use it with a clamp where you say, you know what? This is my minimum. This is my maximum. And you can call that value up anywhere in there that you want to use. So that's very cool. You also can use it for color if your color is RGB, because you can do RGBA. So to be honest, I've tested it a bit. I've had very mixed results. It seems to be the Brix parser is messing with the color scheme. So while I do this on non-Brix sites, and I wanted to show you guys the trick, and I'm positive there is a workaround. I believe it has something to do with the layers, but it was just too beyond scope for this video. So I'm not going to get into it, but there is a way to say, hey, take this color, turn it to RGBA, which is the alpha channel, and then you can use it for transparencies of that color. It's a trick I use on almost every project I work on. Now, truthfully, Brix has this built in, and I think this is why it's getting screwed up. Is if you come in here, you can see that it does make the transparent shades. And so you can just do it that way. And you don't really have to kind of code it yourself. So I just wanted to tell you that it should be working. It kind of isn't, but other than colors, it all works great. Okay, so there's only one more thing I want to show you here. We're just going to reset this. And let's take this block and I don't know, let's just call this card, because we're creative like that. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to right click and I'm going to say save it as a component. Actually, before I do that was kind of dumb of me. I want to make sure. So I have the header medium here. Sure. And let me just check what CSS I have on here. Oh yeah, I changed the CSS ID. So I tell you what, let me just take that away. Okay, so now we have this card, just a basic card. I don't even have any classes because I don't want to mess up my sample site, but it really doesn't matter. So we're going to save this as a component, and we're going to call it sample card, okay? Because I know some of you really like using components. Personally, I haven't found a huge usage for them, but I wanted you to see this. So I have this sample card. Great. And if I wanted to, let's go ahead and save that. I'll go back to my site right here. And if I wanted to, I could have a new section. Actually, that's a special section. So let's go ahead and duplicate this one. And we will take out these blocks. So here we actually already have a component, but it doesn't matter. So there we go. We have kind of the same thing. And I'm going to insert that component of the sample card. There it is. Cool, right? But check this out. If I want to, actually, you know what? Let's put in 2 or let's put in 4 of them. If I want to, even though it's a component, because I called up that variable, I can override it locally scoped. So I'm going to take the parent, in this case, the block, and over here, I'm just going to grab the root, which means basically this item, okay? And I'm going to say header dash medium, and we're going to say it is worth, I don't know, let's say 6 rem. So you see what we did? we injected a locally scoped variable inside of each of those component cards. So that's the power of using variables globally and the ability to override them locally. Now, I'm going to leave it at that because a lot of this you can kind of do in your head, and I want you to kind of kick it around in real simple terms, because pretty soon you start going, damn, that means I could ... and you'll figure out your own uses for them. But there are a lot of uses for them, and really, there's only one major caveat, and I really want to show this to you. This is why I use the BricsFX thing. So we have this BricsFX thing, and let's just go ahead and put a title effect on it, okay? So we're going to put a text effect, and I don't know. Let's do, oh, you know what? I love this wave up character. It's just fun. So we will go ahead and there you go. There's the wave up effect. Cool, right? If you notice inside, I use variables. And actually, let's go ahead and make this wider so that you can kind of see what the variables are. Now, we have a variable here that's called the distance, 120 pixels. What we're able to do is do this locally on the ID level, not just because we don't want to change the class. We want the class to stay the same. So what I'll do is I'll copy this. Okay, and here I'll unclick it so that it's not selected. And here on the ID level, we will put the variable and whatever distance we want. In this case, let's make it just small. Let's say we're going to do 30 pixels for whatever reason. Okay, we're going to save that, and I'm going to refresh it to show that it works. And there you go. They're not sliding real far. So that's how to use locally scoped on the same element. The ID level overrides the class level. But that's not why I showed you this. Why I showed you this was right here. --BFX. All my settings use this --BFX. Why do you think that is? Well, could you imagine if I had called it just, --distance? Do you know how many other, do you know how many other conflicts I would have had where some other app used --distance or whatever? Yes, locally scoped is going to override, but it doesn't mean that you go out looking for a fight. Come up with names that are kind of unique to you. Now, it's a balancing act. You don't want to use such specific names where the naming system becomes just overwhelming. If you ask me, ATF's a little like that. But you do want to use names that are unique enough that you know you won't have interference. Now, again, this only comes into play if you're using different plugins and stuff that use variables. But it's a good practice to name your variables well so that you don't have either the complexity or the conflict of, hey, that variable's already used somewhere. So I just wanted to show you that you can override, but also it's best to use specific variables. So that's it. You've got your head wrapped around the variable thing. You're ready to rock and roll, and I will see you in the next Brick School episode. Later.